I just returned from 2 days of jam-packed garden hopping with my partner in all things gardening and food, Jack Davis at Epic Yard Farm in Phoenix. Take a look at day 2.
I'm Kristi Caggiano, and I'm a gardener in Glendale, Arizona, and my specialty is composting and pollinator garden design.
Well, I've just had a little brief look at your garden, and it seems like you have sections all over your garden for sitting and being cozy. In fact, you have cozy corners all over your garden.
Well, when I first began gardening, I was a brand new mom, and our budget was about $6 a month that I had to set aside for my garden. And so what I thought I would do is divide my garden into little garden rooms. So I created a garden room near my front door, and that was where I began. And I would use a lot of upcycled and recycled materials and then spend my $6 on different plants. I've just written a book on composting, and actually here's the cover. It's called Fail-Proof Composting, and it is, I think, the prettiest composting book that's ever been written, and easy. And in fact, Jack Davis of Epic Yard Farm is helping me complete the graphic part of it, and I hope to be releasing that extremely soon.
Tell me about the miracle part of Miracle Haven Farm.
Well, I really thought that when you plant a seed, we just don't really understand how each one of those tiny little seeds becomes what it becomes. And to me, that's just a miracle. I gardened here in our home for quite some time, but my background is in custom clothing design. And that is what I was doing professionally. And I had a small shop, and I was actually in the middle of a news interview with Channel 3 about my shop when I realized that I wasn't being able to complete my sentences properly. I had bronchitis, and something just wasn't right after that. I was taking an antibiotic called Levaquin, and I have an extreme allergic reaction to it, where it did rupture connective tissue and did some damage to my central nervous system and caused some issues with memory. But at that time, doctors really didn't know how to recognize an allergic reaction to Levaquin, and they instructed me to continue it, so I completed it. And that is when I had to close my shop and find a new plan for life. I thought maybe this would be a good time for me to pursue becoming a master gardener and becoming a volunteer. And I wasn't sure if I would be able to memorize everything and pass on my tests, but I was able to do it. And not only that, but I volunteered so much the first year that I actually won Rookie of the Year. You can't really plant flowers and vegetables here in Arizona in our native soil, so I knew I needed a huge amount of good soil. So I began to apply the things that I learned about composting from Master Gardener, and I basically turned about 6,000 pounds of trash into soil and began building my raised beds and my garden. This whole section right here was just completely empty all summer. This is compost that I just finished. So you can see right here, there's lots. These peppers did great here.
Wow.
Yeah, and then the flowers on either side did great, but right here you've got this blank spot because that just came out of the compost bin. That's just all, that used to be garbage.
Your garden just seems enchanted to me. Is that a word that you think of when you create these spaces?
Definitely. I think my favorite word in the garden is whimsical. For my garden, I love to be able to add elements of whimsy and enchantment.
So you're still healing?
Yes.
Yes.
I am. I believe that the garden became almost like physical therapy for me. So the damage to my hands and my legs and such was extensive. I would just sometimes go out in the garden and move one piece of flagstone, roll it into place, and then I'd need to sit down and rest. And at this point, I've recovered tremendously, but I still use a contractor to help me put in some of the things that I would have done myself in the past, although I've made a lot of improvement. I do love listening to your videos. I love the sound of your voice. It has a joy to it and just a delight to it, and I love it. I love the way that you bring out the best of a person in their garden.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
Appreciate that.
This tree was here when we first moved in. It's an African sumac, and I don't necessarily recommend it.
Oh.
It's a non-native, and it's very messy, but it has definitely offered us a huge amount of shade. And because it was here, its structure became the defining part of how I created my front garden. I really built it to coordinate with this tree.
Also, tell me about your butterfly garden out front.
Yeah, in the front yard, we have a very, very hot front yard. It gets about 8 hours of Arizona summer sun or more, and that sun can be about 120 degrees or more. I knew that in the front yard I couldn't create a traditional flower butterfly garden, but I wanted to show what could be done in that full burning hot sun with a patch of earth that you might think, you know, couldn't have anything done with it. So I used desert milkweed and hesperaloe and winter blaze aromaphila and Angelita daisy, blackfoot daisy, and different agave to create a butterfly wonderland and a hummingbird garden.
Did you design it so that they bloomed at different times of the year, so you always have something in bloom?
Yes, I definitely took into consideration the time of year. Winter blaze blooms through the fall and winter and attracts the hummingbirds, and other plants in my garden bloom in the spring and summer, and spring and summer.
What's your favorite place to sit in your garden?
Oh, well, I definitely don't have a favorite place. I love every piece of it, and the neat thing about my garden is that because the sun and the shade was the #1 consideration for me, at different times of day, each place becomes a perfect spot to sit. It becomes perfectly inviting and shaded and cozy, and other areas become a little too hot. And so throughout the day, I think I wander throughout the whole thing and I bring people in.
And how many water features do you have?
I think I just have 2 water features, and we had a pool. There was a pool here when we moved in, and it's neat because our water features attract all of the bees and the pollinators to get their drinks there, and they leave people alone when they're playing in the pool. Added bonus. By having these water features that have very gentle water and some moss on them, our bees come there, and it's really neat. Children know that they can come here, that the garden, those spaces belong to the bees during the day, and that the bees will go to sleep at night, and that the whole garden is theirs in the evening. I'm creating my compost everywhere that you can possibly create compost. So I built raised beds, and then I began to create the compost in the beds. We had an old tree stump. I set a compost container over the stump with the stump inside, built compost, and it composted the stump in 2 cycles. This is the entrance to my compost area. So if you want to come with me, I can show you where I compost. Hello!
And down here you've got...
Yes, down here I have some fake grass. This was actually upcycled from a football field. Well, yeah, there's just a little tiny bit of good compost left in there. All the rest of this went into the beds.
Does that have a bottom on it?
No, there's no bottom. So here's one. Somebody gave me this one. They didn't like how it worked, and I'm going to test my book methods on it to see if I can make it work. So here's a few more bins, and I always put a green flag in front of my active bin so that my husband, when he mows the grass or when people come out to put things in, they know that this is where they should put stuff. So this just had things going in this morning. This is a gathering space and the steampunk garden. So there's a tremendous amount of metal scrap that's being used in this space. This trellis is a little bit of fun right here. This trellis is actually a headboard and a footboard put together with 3 bicycle tires and a lantern and some different pieces of metal scrap just wired together and painted.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
You seem as enchanting as your garden. So I think your garden is just coming right out of every creative pore in your body. You just light up talking about it.
I think you're right. I definitely think that being able to use plants and dirt as an art medium and express myself that way it's definitely a powerful thing for me.
That's wonderful.
Not really. Don't tell us about the food. So,
this is a chicken puff pastry with a spinach berry vinaigrette salad.
We're just south of Malibu, so they've got a lot of shelters in where I am for the people. Be sure and watch my Phoenix Gardens playlist. Thanks so much for watching this video, and if you enjoyed it, please watch these. Oh. Whoa. Okay.